Having loomed over the sport like an oncoming storm for a few years now, no part of the Formula One world was able to escape the fact that the 2026 regulations were coming. Drivers scurried from team to team personnel jumped ship in order to attempt to find better prospects elsewhere, and all the while, everyone had one question. Yeah, they're coming, but what even are the 2026 regulations? All we've heard so far is that Max doesn't like them, and the odd speculative piece about what the full extent of the changes that we'd see would be. Well, all of that changed this week as the full announcement of the regulations was released, and oh boy, let's just say the reactions have been a mixed bag. On the surface, if you look at some of the main talking points, the new regs seem to tick many boxes that the fans of the sport have been wanting for quite some time. Some of the drivers' reactions, however, have been pretty disappointed, with some of them acting like they've just been told that the sport will be Formula Prius from now on, and not even the cool ones from Super GT. Well, I guess there's one thing to do in order to estimate just how positive of a change will be coming in 2026, so join us as we take a look. Want to know what's included in the 2026 regulations? It's a mixed bag, but some of the main talking points will convert some races that are snooze fests into the spectacles they deserve to be. And stick around because some of the drivers were less than pleased. So what exactly is in the new regulations? Well, the new regulations present a pretty individual change for the sport, the likes of which hasn't been seen for quite some time. In recent years, the rule changes have been either aero or engine. Sometimes one has led to a change in the other, but in the grand scheme of things, one has held the primary importance. However, in 2026, nothing is being left alone. The first change, and the main one that has been the target of the FIA, is the new engines. The push towards sustainability has dictated an even split between the combustion and electrical components, with the power from the latter elements now being trebled in the new engines. This is something that the engine providers will have been working towards for some time now, with the confirmed engine providers being the new entrance Audi, the flip-flopping Honda, who are now the factory engine provider for Aston Martin, the full launch of the Red Bull powertrains project, as well as the returning staples of Mercedes and Ferrari. Renault will also be providing their toasters for their cars as well. Having 6 individual engine providers when moving into a new engine reg presents a real opportunity for a refreshed grid, as if one team gets an immediate advantage, it could completely shuffle the pack. Nicholas Tombazis claimed that the raceability of the current cars introduced in 2021 would be continued into the new regulations, something that is definitely a positive given the tightness of the field this year, providing greater and greater excitement as the season continues. However, it has taken a few years to get here. The thing that we don't necessarily know, and this will be a make or break for some fans, is the style of combustion engine required for the cars. We doubt this will be going full retro and allow teams to bring a V6, 8, 10 or 12 to their desires, so the decision on which direction the regulations go could have a huge impact on the audible aspect of the sport for years to come. I personally don't mind the much maligned throatiness of the V6 engines. In fact, they're likely to be the ones sticking around. However, there is no doubt that in order to cover up the potential whines of the electrical element of the engine, a nice V10 wouldn't go amiss, would it? Given the use of sustainable fuels and a 50-50 split with the electrics, we don't see why the engines couldn't be given back to a sound that so many fans loved over the years. Of all the changes in the cars, raceable or not, this change may be the biggest immediate turn-off for many of the fans at home. For the drivers, however, it seems that some are already turned off, with worrying rumours from drivers testing the new cars saying that they are painfully slow. Lewis Hamilton took a cautious and optimistic approach, however made it clear that if the racing suffers, then he will not be happy, as he said. I've spoken to some of the drivers who have driven the 2026 car on the simulator, and they say it's pretty slow, so we will see whether it's actually the right direction or not. But I think in terms of sustainability, particularly on the power unit side, I think it's a really bold step, and that is going in the right direction. But we've got to make sure the cars are efficient, fast, and an actual step forwards, and actually racing is improved. And it wasn't just Hamilton worried about this, but a lot of the grid were voicing their concerns, with Alex Albon particularly aggrieved by the current prospects. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think it's going to be very slow, extremely slow. I'm guessing there's a lot of stuff being done around making sure the straight line speeds are not tapering off at the end, with all the MG UK and whatnot being involved. I still think there needs to be some work done. Seeing some of the work we have done and seeing the speed traces around some of the tracks, it's pretty slow. And the Thai driver would go on to even suggest that the FIA are overcomplicating for overcomplicating's sake, and that it would have a negative impact on the quality of racing. The whole aero path that we're going to go down, I'd rather just have a bit more simple engines. A little bit more maybe standardized parts within the engines or whatever it may be, and just return to a more basic regulation. The next major change is something that everyone will be happier about, and that is that the current Goliath cars are getting smaller and lighter. The cars will be 30 kilograms lighter, with a wheelbase reduced by 2 centimeters and thinner by 1 centimeter. Now, the size doesn't sound like all that much of a change, however, this is a sport where all the slight margins can add up. The aim of this change, according to the FIA, is to make the cars more nimble and pointy, so while a reduction in size will make Monaco slightly more raceable, it appears that the change is made with as broad of an approach towards tracks as possible in order to generate excitement across the board, rather than just trying to improve Monaco directly. However, we do hope that it will lead to a bit more excitement both for the drivers and the fans in the Principality. One driver who had a positive reaction to the aero changes was Fernando Alonso, who said this about the reduction of the car size. I think the smaller cars, just being able to overtake or fight a little bit more, that will be the best part for the drivers. I think the most important thing for us is that it's a close competition, and many teams and drivers will have the possibility to win. What we don't like is when one team wins all the races for 2 or 3 years, so let's see if the 2026 rules can bring that. However, something the two-time champion was less happy about was what he deemed unrealistic weight changes, as he would go on to say, I think it's impossible probably to achieve 30 kilos already. If the power unit is 50% electric and you need the batteries to support that, cars will increase 20 or 30 kilos because of the power unit. And then you want to reduce 30 kilograms, you need to drop 60 kilos of the current car, which is the same as at the moment. Probably to the teams, it's an impossible target. They have 2 years to achieve that target, and as always in Formula 1, what's impossible in 2024 will probably become reality in 2026 because there are very clever people in the teams, but I think all is a consequence of something else that is in the cars. Continuing on the aero front, DRS is gone. Yep, scrapped, finished. No more push-to-pass. Well, not quite. Starting with the DRS, the new regulations open up a pretty funky and currently banned prospect, and that is moving parts on both the front and rear wing. The rear wing will no longer be treated as a blunt force fix for poorly regulated cars that couldn't pass each other. Instead, they will open up at any given opportunity on a straight to reduce drag in the car. In principle, this certainly makes sense. However, in practice, we're curious to see how and where this will actually work. If this is an element triggered by sensors and pre-programming, we imagine that there will be a few high-profile blunders of this being stuck open or not actually working. However, it appears that this is a key aspect to the cars being able to follow on the straights. The other and weirder element is the front wing, which will now have movable components in order to allow greater airflow to and suit the energy demands of the new power units. And by the way, push to pass isn't gone at all, but it will be far more subtle, at least until Sky make a graphic that takes up half of the screen to tell you when it's on, as the drivers will be granted the ability to temporarily boost their electric output in order to make passing easier. Now, we don't know if this is limited to certain zones and certain conditions, such as the current 1-second window at certain points of the circuit, but we'll be curious to see if this can be used in a defensive manner or to enhance qualifying laps. Obviously, alongside all of this, there have been improvements in safety, which will always be a positive so long as they work, despite what some cavemen will tell you, but that's about it. What do you think of the changes? We have to say, all of the drivers having their concerns about the quality of racing has us worried that the FIA will be continuing their track record of making some of the worst decisions possible, but we hold out hope that, to the time that the new regulations are implemented, things will improve. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.